Today I don't know what to do for sewing. So instead, I'm going to do something about what I'm doing right now, which is crocheting. So, sorry if you were hoping for a sewing video today. I just don't know what to do next that I'm actually needing to do. And unless I want to make a lot of samples, and I don't want to make a lot of samples because then I don't have anything useful. I mean, it's useful to make a sample, but I already have lots. So, all right. So what I'm working on right now is this blanket, and I have a confession to make. I bought more yarn. Now, some of you are probably thinking, "Oh, big deal, she bought more yarn." I have a goal to keep my yarn down to a certain amount, and then I bought this yarn because it looked like it would be really fun. So instead of using the yarn I already have, which is what I'm trying to do, I instead fell to the temptation of buying the really pretty yarn. So it's been coming out really nice. This is a, what do you call it, ombre or ombre? Ombre? I don't like calling it ombre because that means man in Spanish. And but ombre means hunger in Spanish. So anyways, the problem is being bilingual, sometimes things just don't sound right to you. Anyways, so I've been doing this half double crochet. Look at how nice this has come out. The color changes automatically. It's so pretty. When the color changes like this, it makes me really, really happy, which is the whole reason I bought the yarn in the first place, because the yarn, like when I looked at it, it made me feel happy. And I thought, wow, if I had a blanket made out of these yarns, then that would make me happy. And so I did that. And it wasn't super expensive, so, you know. Anyways, so I'm going to do these different kinds of yarn. They kind of go together, and I'm getting to the end of this first skein. It's almost, or ball, or whatever. And I did a couple years ago, I did some temperature blankets for the two schools I was working at. I was working at two schools at the time, and I developed a system to be able to get this nice and even, and also so that I wouldn't have to count stitches every single row, because one of the blankets had 200 stitches per row, and then the other blanket had 220 stitches per row. This one has 250, and I'm using a smaller crochet hook. So I'm partly making this for me because I developed this system, and then I used it on a few projects, and then I was finishing a half-done project, and I had to take out some stuff, and I had to figure out how I did it again. So you've got to find a way to record things if you think you're going to forget. I didn't think I was going to forget, and I did. So anyways, partly for me that I am recording this so that way I don't forget again. And the reason I forgot is after I had made 2 temperature blankets inside of a year, I was just done with crocheting for a while. So I haven't I haven't done a lot of crocheting in a couple years. So, yeah. And for those of you who don't know what a temperature blanket is, it's where you do one row of a color based on what the temperature is. So I've got pictures. I'll put them in. Yeah. I did a 10-degree thing. It was a whole Spanish thing. So like if it was in the 70s, then I think it was yellow. And if it was in the 60s, it was a green. I don't remember. because it's been a couple years. Anyways, I've got pictures though. So anyways, I'm going to change camera view so you can see what I'm doing. All right. Okay. I am doing what is called a half double crochet. I'm almost at the end of this row, and a half double crochet is something between a single crochet and a double crochet. So I think that's why it's called that. It's kind of weird. It's not one of the things I learned when I was really young. So when I was really, really young, my mom taught me how to crochet by teaching me a chain stitch, a single crochet, and a double crochet. And then, as little kids do, I just went with that and made a lot of weird, fun creations and didn't really care if I was breaking the rules or not. And I just experimented. So a single crochet looks like this, where you always have a loop on here when you're crocheting. And when you already have some crochet that's started, you want to make sure you go under both of these two bits of string right here, unless you're doing something a special kind of pattern. But for stability, I always go through here. Well, almost always. And a single crochet, I'm going to insert the hook where I want the stitch to be. I'm going to yarn over, which is putting the yarn over, and then I turn the hook so that the I can pull the string through, or it grabs the string better. And then I'm going to pull this way with my right hand, and with my left hand, with my thumb and middle finger, I'm going to pull I'm doing this exaggerated right now, to make it easy for me to get that hook through without it grabbing right there. It'll come through really easily. And now I have a second loop. So then, now that I have two loops, I yarn over again and draw that. Again, I'm doing this. I'm pulling this way and I'm pulling down this way. And I draw the yarn through both of the loops. So single crochet. In my mind, the way I thought of it was insert, grab, come back, two loops, turn it into one loop, or pull through two loops. All right. So go insert, grab, now go through two loops. That's how my brain thinks of it. And that's how, I don't know if that's how adults who learn how to crochet think of it, but remember, I learned it when I was like 6. So, all right, now I'm going to show you a double crochet. A double crochet is where you yarn over first, you insert the hook where you want the stitch to be, yarn over, pull through. So the only thing that's different so far is that we did a yarn over before we inserted the hook, right? Then like my mom said it to me in a way, and I don't know if this is what she actually said, but this is the way that I heard it. You only go through two loops at a time. Okay, so I'm going to yarn over and draw through only two loops. And then now I've made another loop. I've got two loops again. So I'm going to draw through two loops. Okay, so the way in my brain I think of it is yarn over, insert, grab, come back, go through two, go through two. Yarn over, insert, grab, come back, go through two, go through two. That's the way I think of it in my brain. You can see that this is a little bit taller than the half double crochet. And it's also a little bit looser. On the back side, you can see a little bit better how this is higher up here and this is low, and so it's lower down here. This makes this a little bit more loose and this a little bit more tight. The single crochet was a little bit tighter than this one too. I like the half double crochet for blankets like this, where I'm just doing the same stitch over and over and over again, because it has a little bit more stability, like the single crochet does, but it also adds a little bit more height, so that it's a little bit like the double crochet. And the way you do a half double crochet, you yarn over, insert, grab, come back, and instead of following that rule where you can only go through 2, I go through all 3. See? So yarn over, insert, grab, come back, pull through all 3. Now, it's very important to know that whenever you're doing knitting and crocheting, that everybody has to figure out how they control the yarn. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody, and also how they control, for this, in this case, the hook. For knitting, it would be knitting needles. Everybody has a slightly different style, a very slightly different style, and people have different preferences. I prefer a crochet hook that is more rounded, right, like here. There are some crochet hooks out there that are more of just like a, I don't know how to explain it. And I don't think I have any. I think I got rid of all of them. And for me, they're harder to use. I like these more rounded kinds. I also like this kind where it has the grip. I didn't used to, but then I got some, and I like it because when I would crochet as a young person, sometimes I'd have looser loops, and my loops would go all the way down here and sometimes come off, or they'd be up here in my fingers or something. I like that, like, I don't have to worry about them coming further down where it makes things harder. I don't really, it's not for me so much about it being more comfortable, although that is a factor. I just like that it stops my loops right there for some reason. Also, I am using a 3.5 millimeter. I think that's like a size E or something like that. I prefer these ones that are the millimeters, or in millimeters, because it makes more sense to my brain. The ABC system doesn't make as much sense to me, because it doesn't jump by even intervals. So anyways, I'm going to continue doing my half double crochet. So this is how fast I actually normally, oh dang it, did you see that? I dropped one. So I'm going to let that go, come back. What I love about crocheting is that if you screw up, you can just pull it out. So this is how fast I normally crochet. Well, this. Wow. I'm actually going, I keep on grabbing some of the plies. It's also important that you have all of the plies of yarn. The plies of yarn are all these individual strands. So this is a 3-ply yarn. It's a lighter weight yarn. And they do that to make the yarn stable. If you have only one twist of yarn, then not only is it easier to break, but it also will force the project to slant one way, depending upon which way it's twisted. So you twist one way, and then for just one ply, and then to make it stable, you twist it back the other way with other ones. You also do the same thing for rope, and that makes it stable. All right, let's see if I can do that. I'm having a lot of trouble with this. I don't know why. Now I'm getting to the end. Okay. I am going to go into this last little spot where there's still two. It's a little bit smaller because of how I start the row. And then I'm going to go in where I had the two chains. I'm gonna grab two sections. So I'm gonna grab this thread and that thread, and then there's a third one right here. I'm gonna go in between. Okay, you can see that there's one strand of yarn there and two strands there. I'm going to do that. Okay, and then I'm going to flip it. Oh, microphone cord. It's a lot easier to do this in my lap. And then this is where I'm pretty sure I'm breaking rules of crochet. I am going to do this. Normally you would just chain up 3 and then start, instead of in here, in right here. But if I was adding more yarn, then I would be probably adding it right there. So to make things look the same even when I'm changing yarn color, what I do is I insert here, it's a little tight, grab one, pull up, but then I treat this as a slip stitch. So I'm going to, instead of like treating it like a single crochet, I'm just gonna slip it through that loop too, and then pull down. And then from there, I'm gonna count that as one of my chains, and then I'm gonna do one tightest chain, and then another chain. All right, and this counts as my first stitch. And then I'm gonna start at the next spot right there. It's a little bit to do my half double crochet again. Well, that didn't. Okay, so now I've got a couple of stitches there. All right, the reason why I make this so tight, pull it down, and then I do this one a little bit tight, is because I found that when I did it a little bit looser, this edge right here was a little bit bigger than the stitches right next to it, so it created like this this wavy thing on the edge. So I've figured out what for me I need to do with my tension to be able to have this be flat and straight. So that is why I do it that way. And when I'm almost done. I'll show you in just a little bit. I'm going to add another bit of the new skein of yarn on, and it's going to go in right there. So the reason why I use this system, as I said already, is so that no matter if I'm changing yarn or not, I am going to have the same kind of look on the edge, and you won't be able to tell where I changed. Okay. I'm coming to the end of this other row. It looks a lot like this last one, but because of the way the color changes in between. So this is the one that I did before. I can move that now. So this is how I end one. I know I'm not going to have enough yarn and I don't want to change colors in the middle of a row. So I'm going to finish off my row. Okay, last 2 stitches. This one's a little bit smaller. I had to slow down. Make sure I have 2 strands. Then it's like right there. Grab those 2 strands. So I have 2 strands. 2 strands on the top and 1 on the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to chain. I forgot to mention before, chaining is where you just pull one loop through another loop. I'm going to pull 1 loop through here, and then I'm going to tighten it. Well, you don't always chain that way, but I'm going to tighten it to about there, I think is where I like to cut them. Okay, that's what I do. I only have, let's see, that much yarn left from that ball. It's not enough to do in a row, but maybe I'll use it for something else, who knows. So now I'm going to flip this over. Oh man, this is not working well. One of the tricks my mom taught me was that if you're going back and forth, one direction and the other direction, then these strands up here that look like kind of like a braid are going to point you in the direction that you need to be going. So if I cut this off and I couldn't remember what direction was next, I could look here and be like, oh, that's the direction to go. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is this little tail here, I'm going to crochet on top of it. So that way I don't have to weave it in later. And I'm going to look at my next skein right here and figure out which direction I want the colors to go. Do I want to start with this one and then go out this way, or do I want to start with this one and go in this way? I'm pretty sure I want to start in the middle. And it's actually kind of easier to crochet or knit or anything where you're constantly just drawing a little bit of yarn out at a time if you're able to get the yarn out from the middle. But it's kind of difficult. You sometimes just have to pull the chunk out. See? That didn't get everything. Try and find the middle. This one's being extra difficult. But I'm gonna do it. I can tell, because I only have 1 string going to here, that I'm gonna find the end. So I know when I have the end in there. Okay. See, and I found 1 string again, so I know I'm gonna find the end in here. I know it looks really messy right now, but it does make it easier. Oh, getting closer. It's normally not this difficult. That's oh, there it is, right here. So now I have my end. And that one made a lot more mess than normal, but I don't care right now. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave about this much left over. And this first 2 strands that are normally the place that people say you don't treat as the first stitch, right here, this is where I'm going to do a slip knot kind of thing. So got my tension going. I'm going to hold this one with this side with this hand and this side with this other hand. I'm going to go and grab some of the yarn. I want this to be over here. And I have a loop, but the loop isn't stable. So what I do now is I pull both of these yarns through. I pull up, then I have this one. There's my tail. So now that I have this tail here, I can pull this back. That's my actual loop. And then I'm gonna pull tight on the tail and then bring it over that way as far as possible. I'm going to bring this back down to normal. That's going to count as that slip stitch like I did on the other one. And so I'm going to chain 2. The first chain is going to be tightish, so I'm going to pull on a little bit more. And then the next chain is going to be pretty normal. And then I'm going to half double crochet, making sure that I include this piece so that I don't have to weave it in. So I'm going to oh no. This is what I'm talking about. Do you see how I only have, I have 1 ply that's gotten off? That makes things funny, so I need to go back. There, now all 3 plies are on there properly. All right. Now that I've almost got the end of this, I'm going to actually pull on it just a little bit, and it's going to scrunch these up, but that's okay. All right, and then I'm going to crochet over it a little bit more. All right, now what I do, now that I have this little tiny tail here, and this is scrunched up, then I just pull it, not too much, out to where it should normally be. And then it's hidden. All nice. I'm going to do something similar to this one. But now I'm going to continue crocheting this color. So I'm getting to the end of coming back, and I'm going to bring this thread up. I am going to weave it through, but I'm going to weave it through with the crochet hook. So I'm going to see these are my chains. I'm going to enter in from the back, and pull it through. And then I'm going to find the next one right here. Come the other way. Okay, so now this is up. Instead of being down here, it's on top of here, so that I can bring this over. I'm going to hold it down, and I'm going to crochet over it. And it's okay that it's pulled like over a little bit, and it's a little bit long. I'll probably trim it. So I'll crochet over it. It's always difficult with that first stitch. But then once it's in, it's a lot easier to follow it along. Sorry. There's that. I'm holding it down with my thumb here, the extra tail, and I just hold this down with my thumb, I guess. I've never really thought about which fingers do which jobs. It's kind of become a rhythm for me. So, and that's the problem when you're trying to learn things from somebody who's done it a lot, is that there's all these, oh, dang it. It was pulling on just one ply. There are all these little micro steps, and there's also lots of little movements you don't even realize that you do when you become good at something that requires fine motor skills, like crocheting or knitting or sewing or weaving or spinning or all of those things. So, what is this? Oh, this is some bit of something. I think it's a bit of fiber from a bit of fabric. What am I doing? I got distracted. Oh. Started the next stitch before I finished the one I was on. Alright. This is a lot easier for me to do in my lap than it is so that you can see it. You see how this is pulling now? That's fine. Come on, there we go. So as I'm approaching this, it's pulling it in. I am going to pull just a little bit so I can get my stitches in. As I get near the end, I like to slow down a little bit. Okay. Was that my... No, it wasn't. It wasn't my last one. It's kind of hard to tell because I've got that extra string in there. But this is the last stitch, normal stitch right here, I think. Oh no, wait, I was the last one. This is the last normal stitch, and now I need to get into the chain. It's a little bit harder to tell because this right here, little piece right there, that is the tail. I need to include that. So I might have 3. Well, I have had 3 on top, so what I need to make sure though is that I only have 1 on the bottom. Nope, I have 2 on the bottom. So go. Come on. There we go. I'm just double checking that I only got the one. All right, there we go. And now I have both of the tails in. And this tail is kind of a bit long. So because I pulled on it, well, I can even pull it back this way a little bit. And I can trim it. I really thought I had done a shorter tail. And now I can pull it back loosely, and it's all hidden. You can't even tell it's there. So I like doing it this way instead of going over both at the same time, because the pink one that I ended is right in here, and then this darker pinky purple is hidden in here. If I'm changing colors like I was for the temperature blanket all the time, then the color that it matches is the one it's sandwiched right next to, right? It's right there. You can barely see it, the pink tail. And then the other one is in here. And that is how I'm able to change colors and not have a ton of tails at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and start like I normally do. Do this as a slip. There we go. And then I'm going to continue on. I'm not going to have to change colors very often on this, which will be really nice. I also really like how these are going together. I forgot to mention, this part right here is a tail that came out. There was a spot where there was a knot, and it just didn't lay right. So I cut the knot out, and then I tied it back together, and I couldn't just like start, it's like somewhere in here. And because of the color changing, I didn't just want to take one row out and then start anew. So the tails are hidden in here. And this is the one. So I'm going to pull on it a little bit. I'm going to snip it. Pull it back. You can't even tell. Can you tell in here that there was a knot that I took out? No, you can't. Yeah. Similar method to what I've been doing with the tails, just in the middle of the row. But bringing the tails up to here and yeah, then just crocheting over them. So this is how it's going, and you can't even tell. I'm almost done getting the part that was messy used up. You can't really even tell right here that that's where I changed colors, but I did. Yep. And that's the reason I use that method. I do leave the tail from the part that I started with. That tells me what side I started on. So anyways, that is how I do a half double crochet blanket. This is literally half double crochet every single stitch, but that's how I get the edges to be so nice and straight. I don't know if you can see me. There we go. The reason why it's easier if you have the string coming out from the middle is it doesn't tangle as much. My ball of yarn is not moving around as I pull. This little bit is. But when I get to the point that I'm just going to be pulling from here, it's not going to need to move around. It's just gonna stay put where I put it. And that is why it's easier for me to have the yarn coming out from the center instead, so that I don't have to worry about it moving all over the place. It is really a lot easier for me to crochet from this position. So, all right. And the thing that's really nice about this blanket is that Bruce's claws are not going to pull out the individual yarns. He just had his claw in there and it's not going to do it. That's one of the reasons why I did this one so small. I mean, like a finer yarn. This is like a weight 3. Oh, I know what I should say. I should say I'm using this Lion brand mandala yarn. They have different kinds. This is the one that's a lighter weight and 100% acrylic. It has a little thing over here that shows you how it's going to come out, kind of. So anyways, yeah, let me know if you have questions, and enjoy. I'm going to prove now that Bruce is not a cat. Even though he is the size of a cat, he's smaller than a lot of cats that I know. Look. See, he doesn't care. He doesn't care at all. I have never known a cat to see a ball of yarn or a string. Here, let's see if we can even get him to... Nope. Yeah. He's not a cat. He's not a cat. He looks like a cat. He's the size of a cat, but he's not a cat.